Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to Formula 1 news, and with Mercedes saying the last few days that their car really doesn't have the pace right now to compete for event wins this season, supposedly Max Verstappen isn't having any of it, calling them out effectively for what Mercedes seem to do every single year at testing at this point. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, this is the grid as it stands right now. Unfortunately, no Danny Rick in front of the McLaren right here. He was unwell with COVID when this picture was taken, but this is the entire grid. It's pretty exciting stuff. 1 week until lights out at Bahrain, and well, maybe things will change between now and then, of course, in terms of how these cars seem to be performing at the end of the Bahrain test. This was laps completed on the final day, actually over the course of the weekend, sorry. Now, I mean, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton both have almost 200 laps, so just showing that the Mercedes are putting in an awful lot of laps to try and figure out this new car. Whether they achieved that as of yet, not necessarily seem like they did, to be honest. The porpoising issues still continued into the third day. The pace wasn't really there, especially compared to what Red Bull did when they brought in those new aero upgrades that we discussed yesterday. But still, we've seen in many previous tests, right, the Mercedes kind of struggle early on in testing. There's all the talk out, okay, can the car compete this season, right? And we've pretty much seen it every single year at this point. Then again, the last several years, obviously the car has been relatively similar. This year it's rather different, so you would maybe imagine it would take Mercedes longer to get on top of these things. But yeah, that's the thing. The development through the course of the season is likely going to be the difference maker here. The Mercedes are usually very good at. I'm sure they'll be competing at some point. Whether they'll have the car ready to actually get P1 and win the Bahrain Grand Prix next weekend, that is, a lot of people say that's pretty unlikely right now. Red Bull and Ferrari seemingly the front runners right now. Just before we get into things, wanted to mention this real quick. I didn't hear this firsthand, I wasn't tuning in at the time, but apparently Crofty and Brundle were talking about that, well, the quote goes as follows: if what I've heard is true, then very soon we might be hearing about a third race in the US soon. So right now there's the Miami Grand Prix coming up, like the fourth race of the season. Towards the end there's the event in the Texas again, like the one that's called the Circuit of the Americas or whatever, in Austin, and then supposedly there might be a third US Grand Prix. You'd imagine replacing the Russia one. So instead of Turkey, might be going to Vegas or something. So, we'll see how that goes. That might be the race that replaces Russia for this season, and maybe in future seasons as well. Who knows? Because Russia isn't coming back anytime soon, we imagine. This also then, let's talk about Verstappen's lap yesterday. And well, crazy actually to see Schumacher here. Well, the fastest time in the second sector. I believe it's like 10 years since a Schumacher was at the fastest sector time. After a weekend of action, of course, a very different Schumacher to Mick, who's currently in the car. But yes, interesting actually the fact that the Haas was at the quickest in this kind of middle, more technical sector, right? With the slower corners, the Red Bull quicker in the kind of sector 1, sector 3. But yeah, kind of impressive for the Haas, right? I think there's a lot of expectation about this Haas team, like where they are sitting in the midfield. We don't imagine they're going to be front runners, right? Of course, but who knows? They could be at the top of the midfield. The car looked pretty good the last couple of days. Of course, they're out on track on their own when Schumacher set this time, but he wasn't far off Verstappen's pace. And Verstappen has made it clear that a lot of the teams right now, including their own team, definitely have more to give. So that lap yesterday was about 3 seconds down on the lap that he got pole on last year. In last year's car, of course, at the Bahrain Grand Prix, but he reckons there's still plenty to come from this team, right, and from the other teams as well. As he describes right here, nobody is giving it the full beans in qualifying spec at the moment, he asserted on Saturday night. Of course, the car is better in low fuel. Actually, on the high fuel car, doesn't really do a lot, but it is the same for everyone. So interesting stuff for sure. I think he's saying there's more in the tank. I think we certainly saw that really when you look at the kind of overall speed trap times on the final day. Verstappen was pretty much like 313 kph. There's certainly more to be had from that in terms of engine mode and stuff, and we saw that from probably Mercedes as well this weekend, that theoretically in a straight line they should be very strong this year, but whether they can get the whole porpoising thing together relatively soon, that's been a struggle for them, right? They've been putting stays on the car, all this type of stuff. None of it really seems to have worked great so far. Ferrari have got on top of it to some degree. Similarly, Red Bull most certainly have as well the last few days. So, well, plenty of work for those teams to still do, and that's really what Lewis and the Mercedes guys have been saying. George has been all over it. Toto's been all over it, I think. Lewis has definitely been talking about it, as is tradition at this point. At the moment, I do not think we will be competing for wins. This is what George Russell had to say after the testing concluded. I think it's been a pretty productive but very intriguing at the same time, this testing session. Obviously, so much to learn about these new cars with the tyres. It's pretty clear some of the issues that a lot of teams face with the bouncing, just trying to get on top of that, really. Yes, it's definitely bouncing around a lot from within. It's not the comfiest, in all honesty. I don't really care about the comfort. The performance is there, but at the moment, the performance is not there. We are a step behind our rivals, and we do have a lot of work to do between now and next week to understand, because in every condition, the Red Bull and the Ferrari seem a step ahead of us. So, yeah, what you might expect these drivers to say at this point is not really a surprise. And, well, even Lewis Hamilton says the following, right? I don't think we'll be competing for wins at the moment. There's the potential within the car, all this type of stuff. We've seen this, of course, many times before. This year, is it different with the new cars? Maybe it is, but, Mercedes are the 8-time consecutive Constructors' World Champions for a reason. Usually, they go on top of these things. And Max Verstappen, of course, understands that. He has a few words to say about the Mercedes guys. I thought kind of the specificity of his remarks here was kind of funny, because kind of directly targeted at what Lewis Lewis likes to say in certain situations. So, well, he says the following in an interview here with Autosport. Verstappen also had his doubts that Mercedes was truly on the back foot, agreeing with Carlos Sainz we saw the other day that Sainz was basically saying, like, Mercedes always do this, it's nothing new. Verstappen says if someone is doing well or a team that everyone expects to do well, then it's, oh no, we're definitely not the favourite, right? Which, of course, is what he's kind of saying Mercedes is saying right now. And then a week later, when things do go well, all of a sudden it's, oh no, but we completely turned it around within a week. Not normal, unbelievable work for the team, thanks to all the people back in the factory, which I thought was funny, right? Because this is exactly what Lewis says. So he's definitely having a bit of a jibe here at Lewis and Mercedes in general, that, you know, they're often the first ones to say, oh, you know, we're really struggling at the moment. Red Bull, Ferrari, they're looking really good. And all of a sudden, when they turn it around, wow, phenomenal work from the team, thanks to all those working hard back in the factory. I just thought that was pretty funny. And, you know, Verstappen also pointed out that Mercedes last year, they had their struggles in testing. They came through and won last year's race in Bahrain at the start of last season. They were also very strong during the first race weekend. So who knows what it'll be like, because of course, qualifying testing, that's different to long run pace. We saw that last year in general. The Red Bull was often slightly better at quali than it tended to be in the race. Verstappen does also go on to talk about Ferrari though, because while he does of course think that Mercedes is still going to be there or thereabouts, he does say that Ferrari have been consistently fast. That shows they've clearly got a stable car at the moment. It just looks good for them. They've had very few problems as well. That's the thing, the reliability issues some drivers have discussed. I'm pretty sure like, it was even Bottas and Alfa Romeo, like, because I'm pretty sure they've developed their own gearbox this year. There's been some issues they've been running into. And he was like, look, my number one concern this season is actually finishing the race, which, you know, who knows? I'm sure there's going to be some mechanical faults and some reliability issues the teams run into in these first few races. We will see next week who's the fastest, but so far they've had a very good test, says Verstappen. About Ferrari, the last 2 years weren't great for them, that being Ferrari, of course, so automatically you start looking at this season a little bit earlier than some of the other teams. It's more than normal that they started earlier than us on the 22 car, and that is okay as well. In the end, with these cars, the development rate during the season is the most important thing. That's the thing that most people think the Mercedes are going to get on top of, even if the car isn't competitive at the start. Like, it's probably going to get there at some point or another. This I did think was funny, actually, just kind of pointing out articles that have had the last few years that have mentioned, you know, this is 2017, for example, Mercedes having problems with F1 testing. 2018, Red Bull could pose a real challenge in 2018. Didn't really end up being the case. Ferrari half a second ahead, says Hamilton, as he predicts toughest battle yet 2019. They win the championship that year. And yeah, same again in 2020, etc, etc. We see this every year. Could it be different this time around? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. This also was interesting though, just kind of on that vein. Pierre Gasly did an interview here where he discussed that he actually reckons right now that it's between Verstappen and Ferrari for the title. He reckons that Verstappen and Mercedes aren't going to be the battle this season for Verstappen and Hamilton. It's actually going to be Verstappen and the Ferrari duo between Leclerc and Sainz. Sometimes these predictions are correct, sometimes they're wrong. I guess we'll have to wait and see how things go. This also from McLaren real quick, just while we were discussing of course Danny Rick earlier in the video. But I mean, yeah, Lando of course has had a difficult time. I think he was speaking to the press and he said the following: McLaren is pretty much in the middle of the pack right now. They're not front running as they were kind of hoping they would be. Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari at the front. He said that Haas is very fast, doesn't even think McLaren is the best in the second pack. So if you're looking at front runners, midfield and kind of back markers, Williams, Alfa Romeo, a lot of people say it at the back right now. Haas actually might be at the top of the midfield, who even knows? And McLaren, as they are right now, he doesn't necessarily think they're competing with the top three. Now, of course, they've had a tough time, reliability issues and stuff like this. Every team, every driver has that incentive to play their own team and their own performances down. And yeah, look, it's going to be this time next week, really, where we know exactly what's going on. And exactly that then. So a week today on Sunday, it's lights out and away we go. We'll probably get a decent idea of pace to some degree in practice. And then in qualifying, we're really going to see where these teams stack up. But yeah, exciting times. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit a like button. Tell us the YouTube gods this is a good video. I'd also like you should see it as well. And I'll grow this channel as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching as always. Take care. And I'll see you next time.